Hey, hello, good morning. Welcome to Brunch Groups. We love this time where we can all gather together, talk a little bit, take a break from our normal Sunday routines. I was really excited to talk about the topic that we've got for this morning. This has just been for us a really rewarding time for Sarah and I. We have just had the best time. Growing and learning, and really a big part of what makes Awaken so special, we feel like for us, especially during this time of ministry that we've had, is just how connected we are, the quality of our relationships and friendships within Awaken. And so it's really special for me to get to take a moment this morning and talk about that. I wanted us to be able to talk about cultivating deep relationships and friendships. There's some jokes that go around. I see them all the time on social media. It says one of Jesus's greatest miracles is that he could have 12 close friends while he was in his 30s. And I think that's a real telling joke about a society right now, about how hard it is as an adult to create, maintain, foster healthy friendships and relationships. I see the joke all the time too, saying that a man will find a best friend in 8th grade, claim him, and then he's his best friend for the rest of his life. I think that's just telling too that sometimes as adults, it's tough. It's complicated to create a brand new friendship, make it last, make it count, go deep, have intimate conversations. And so I love our community. It is amazing to me to watch you guys connect. Now get to see a lot of our younger, a little smaller kids having play dates and looking forward to seeing each other on Sundays. We're seeing that in the youth group as well, just a real community, a real friendship, a real bonding. And so I want to talk a little bit about it because while I feel like sometimes we view these friendships and relationships that we have, or the friendships and relationships that we'd like to have, we view them as good. I think scripturally they are divine. I think that there is so much goodness out of a connection, a human earthly connection that reveals Jesus to us. And so I wanted to start with this proverb. It's Proverbs 18:24, and this is the New King James Version. It says, "A man who has friends must himself be friendly." Then it goes on to say, "But there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother." And so we kind of focus on the second part, but I love the first part of that. A man who has friends has to himself be friendly. And in this proverb, there's a lot there that talks about us as people, that if we really want healthy friendships and relationships, there has to be something in us that cultivates that. There has to be something in us that has this environment to say, I am a friendly person. You can trust me. You can communicate with me. You can connect with me. And I meet a lot of people who just say, it's so hard for me. It's been really difficult for me. And sometimes what they don't see is, as hard as it is for you to connect with people, it's equally as difficult for them to connect with you. That there has to be something in your heart. There has to be room in your day to be able to have friends. And sometimes we get upset that we're not connecting deeply. But I think this proverb is a reminder maybe for us to take a look at ourselves and say, am I creating a space to be a friend? And am I kind of that magnet where people would want me in their life? Am I a positive influence? Am I someone that genuinely they care about, would like to connect with? Or do I have walls up and defenses? And so I hope that maybe we can open our eyes to the fact that many of us have been in an unhealthy environment of friendships, and now the Lord is kind of highlighting some things to say we need to make some adjustments. And so I wanted to start by saying I've read this passage a little bit. I think I did it earlier this month, and then the Lord kind of led me to it about 6 months before that. It's from 1 Peter, and it's 1 Peter 4, 7 through 11. I'm going to have you guys read it in a moment. I think there's a lot here. So in this epistle, verse 7 starts by saying, the end of all things is near, and kind of setting us up, saying, at the end of something, this is when it's really time to amp it up. At the end of the game, in the fourth quarter, in overtime, this is when your best players come out and really showcase who they are. And so this epistle says, the end is almost here. So we're running out of time and energy, and there's not much left to do. What should we do? It says, therefore be alert and of sober mind so that you may pray. And then it says, above all, love each other deeply, because love covers a multitude of sins. This is a great place to start, because this is saying, out of any word that we could preach, out of anything we could give away, out of any way that we could be attractional in our church, it says when people learn how to love each other deeply, it covers so much. And then verse 9 goes on to say, offer hospitality to one another without grumbling. I love this because it's practical, saying that us as people, to love each other adequately and to love the world adequately, we're going to have to learn what hospitality looks like, what it means. And as I think about that, and think about us and think about you, we are definitely in a great season right now where people are connecting and relationships are coming into fruition, and people are really starting to love to spend time with each other. Well, this verse says also hospitality is so important because you can always gather in more. And the more that you open your home, the more that you sit down with people at meals and just make a simple connection, there's something happening. We talk about it in the church. It's so important to love God and to love people, but then we get busy in our day. We kind of keep our relationships really close, and it's hard to reach others. This epistle starts out in this passage by saying, if you really want love to cover a multitude of sins, there's a way to do this. And it says, you're going to have to open your home. And then it goes on to say, each of you should use whatever gifts you have to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. If anyone speaks, they should do so as one who speaks the very words of God. If anyone serves, they should do so with the strength God provides. So in all things God may be praised through Jesus Christ. To him be the glory and the power forever and ever. Amen. And I love that it kind of wraps up by talking about all these gifts that we kind of highlight on a Sunday morning about speaking and serving, but it starts by saying, hey, if you can open your home and love people, it's going to lead you into the divine. It's going to lead you into a place where people's lives are being changed. I want us to not neglect the idea that through even our friendships and relationships, there's something eternal happening. And that there are things that we can do to enhance it. There are things that we can even do in our friendships and relationships to see people that are lost, to see people that are disenfranchised, be brought into the kingdom. And so I love that. I think that's really easy to do. It's great because so many of you are so nice, and you're the best friends that anyone could ask for. And this epistle is saying, use that friendship, use who you are, and then we're going to get to some really, really deep things and some really divine things. But a lot of it just starts with this hinge of friendship and relationship. And so I wanted to end with this passage. This is the story of the paralytic. It's so important that we realize in this passage what Jesus is saying about friends and about people that care and people that are concerned. So it says, one day while Jesus was teaching, some Pharisees and teachers of religious law were sitting nearby. It seemed that these men showed up from every village in all Galilee and Judea, as well as from Jerusalem, and the Lord's healing power was strongly with Jesus. Some men carrying a paralyzed man on a sleeping mat. They tried to take him inside to Jesus, but they couldn't reach him because of the crowd. So they went up to the roof and took off some tiles. They lowered the sick man on his mat down into the crowd right in front of Jesus. This is I love the way the story starts because it's like people were there to hear Jesus. People were there to observe Jesus. But there were some friends. There were people that heard this might be the Messiah, and we believe that he can heal our friend, and so we're going to have to do whatever it takes. And when they got there, the room was full. They didn't use that as some kind of enormous obstacle to say, well, maybe the Lord's shutting a door, or maybe something else is going to happen. They just said, this is just another obstacle, and we care so much about our friend, it's worth it for us to dig up this roof. It's worth it for us to carry him up to the top. It's worth it for us to lower him into this church service and bust it up and stop it because we care. And in verse 20, it says, seeing their faith, Jesus said to the man, young man, your sins are forgiven. This is a wild account in the New Testament, in the Gospels of Jesus, saying that in this moment, It wasn't the paralyzed man's faith. It wasn't the fact that it was the right day of the week. It was literally friends who loved someone deeply enough to care enough, and then to try hard enough to say, we really, no matter what society says, no matter what's going on culturally right now, we think, if at any cost and all costs, because we love our friend, if we get him to Jesus, things are going to change. And it says it happened. That's exactly what happened. Jesus said he saw the friends and was like, this is faith. This is faith in action. This is what matters. And I love this passage because it's really talking about the power of quality relationships, the power that we have when we come together. And I know in groups of friends, there's different levels of faith. There are empaths. There are usually extroverts and introverts. But when we work together to get someone who we care about at the feet of Jesus, it shakes heaven. There's something divine that occurs. And so I wanted us this morning, as we wrap up, I'm going to have you guys just talk a little bit. I'm going to have the leaders read the passage again from 1 Peter. And then I want us to just talk a little bit about how do we cultivate even more in our relationships? How do we press even further into the quality of our friendships? And so I think this is a great topic. I think it's really, really good for where we're at right now. I think you all have such a wealth inside of you. I believe each and every one of us have room this year to add another quality friendship or relationship, and us not to get too complacent with who we have and not be able to look beyond. And so I'm going to challenge you. I hope that you're having a great Sunday. I hope the food was excellent, and I hope maybe now you can hang out for a few minutes and just connect. So thank you so much for coming. Look forward to seeing you next week, and hope you have a great rest of your brunch group.